Welcome back to On the Move with Victor Shi. This is Victor Shi. It is Monday, April 19th. More than ever before, it's becoming clearer and clearer that Republicans not only don't offer any real policies for the American people, but more of them are betraying the very ideals upon which our country was founded. You have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who literally sided with the Pentagon leaker last Friday. You have Republican elected officials doing nothing about gun violence with their home districts being the ones affected by gun violence. You have Republicans in state legislatures across the country rolling back rights, with Florida being the latest example of a state that has banned abortion at just 6 weeks. The question I know all of us have probably is, what will the Republican Party do from now going forward? Will it ever change? And if not, how should Democrats be responding to this? And I'm joined by the perfect guest, as all of you can see, and someone who I look up to so much, someone who's both who fights for progressive values and young people, and he is Representative Jamaal Bowman from the great state of New York. Representative Bowman, thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. So there's so much craziness in the world, and I want to ask you about all of it today. But I want to start off with something that we learned yesterday in the Washington Post, which is that they reported another disturbing piece of information about Clarence Thomas, which is that he made additional disclosure misstatements and omissions. And this comes on the heels of not one, but two ProPublica pieces that detail ethics violations by Clarence Thomas. And so I'm wondering, for you at this point, do you still have confidence that Clarence Thomas can perform his duties as Supreme Court justice effectively and responsibly?
No, absolutely not. I've called for his impeachment in the past. This additional information furthers that call. He should be impeached. We should move forward with those proceedings. But we also need overall democracy reform. We need ethics reform on the Supreme Court. I believe we need to expand the Supreme Court. It hasn't been expanded in, I believe, over 100 years. Our population is much larger. They do not have the capacity to hear all the cases that need to be heard. And this is all part of, again, overall democracy reform, ending the filibuster, getting rid of the Electoral College, and just evolving as a country to meet the needs and demands of our current society. So, yeah, he needs to go. And we need radical change in America, as you know. That's why we're here having this conversation.
Absolutely. I know several of your colleagues have also called for an investigation into Clarence Thomas. And I'm wondering, on the topic of Supreme Court reform, is that possible with this current composition of Congress? And if not, is there any ability we might be able to push ethics reforms or change the ethics code for the Supreme Court?
No, it is not possible with the current makeup of Congress. This is why we need to continue to organize across the country to vote the right people into office, both in the House and the Senate, and vote the wrong people out of office. And that's what my focus is, and that's what's the focus of so many of my progressive colleagues. We need to have a data-driven understanding of what's happening state by state, county by county, really understanding the demographics, really understanding voter turnout, really understanding the need so that we can grassroots organize to take our country where it needs to be, and put pressure on the people who are currently there. Like we can't allow the people who are currently there to sit there and just be comfortable and just meet with donors and raise money and show their commercials and win re-election. We just can't. We need a movement. This is a time for a consistent movement across race, class, religion, background, to make America what it needs to be. So no, very hard, like a 1% chance, I think, with the current makeup. But that's why regular people like me and others need to run for Congress, Senate, win seats both nationally and at the state level, and the county level, and the city level, and the school board level, because the alt-right, the MAGA Republicans, this is their strategy. They want to win at every level, and we got to push back.
Absolutely. And you said put pressure, and you have done that so effectively and so well. And I'm sure all of us can think back to that moment when you called out that Republican member of Congress as he was exiting the House chambers, demanding that he finally and Republicans finally take action before it's too late on gun violence. First, tell us what led up to that moment and what that Republican member of Congress said to you during that exchange.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the House floor talking to several of my colleagues about just what happened in Tennessee. And I don't know why, but I just started thinking about the size of a casket for a 9-year-old. And that was on my mind, the size of a 9-year-old casket. And then I started thinking about Uvalde and started thinking about Sandy Hook and we're living in a country that allows for babies, 6-year-old children, to be killed by assault rifles, and I don't know. Something just made me go outside the House floor. And first, I was initially kind of yelling at reporters to continue to ask Republicans why they don't do anything on gun violence, why they
Yeah.
won't, why don't they have the courage? Push them, because I know how we are, right? We move on to the next story and the next story and the next story, and we leave this, certain issues that we need to be talking about alone. So then Representative Massey came over to me and asked me what I was talking about. And you heard me say I'm talking about gun violence. And he said, will you support my bill? And I didn't know what bill he was talking about. So I asked him what bill. And he said the bill like armed teachers. And I'm like,
Oh
what?
my gosh.
Like that's your answer? Your answer is to arm teachers? Like, that's crazy.
Ugh.
And when I said more guns lead to more death, and look at the data, when you look at states that have these real lax gun laws, you have more gun deaths. I mean, that's just a fact. And then there were people like on social media trying to dispute that. There's nothing to dispute. It's data.
No,
It's
yeah.
actual. And actually, I looked this up. Counties that have Republican leadership, excuse me, actually have more death overall, like not just related to gun violence, but just related to poor governance. And this idea of smaller government and personal responsibility, and literally not helping people. Like people die at higher rates under Republican leadership. It happened with COVID, and it happens outside of COVID. So that's kind of what led to that back and forth. And when I got back to my office, I kind of reflected a bit more on it. And I don't talk about this much, but I realized that like I have been a quote unquote victim of gun violence my entire life. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. My best friend's cousin, we were both 19 years old. My best friend's cousin, brother first was killed by gun violence. His cousin was killed by gun violence. A few years later, when I was in college, one of my best friend's younger sister and her 8-month-old baby were killed by gun violence.
Oh my gosh.
So gun violence and senseless violence have been a consistent part of my entire life. And, you just kind of move on with your life because you can't, you got to go to school and get jobs and right. But like, it's still in my body. It's still in everyone's body if you've dealt with something like that. And now because of social media, the trauma is impacting everyone. And that's why we need everyone to help us move this thing forward. And thankfully, we're paying a lot of attention to it now.
Absolutely. And it's so unfortunate and just enraging that we're in a moment in our country when gun violence is at such a high rate that we probably know someone or know someone who is affected by gun violence, and that just is not how it should be. And you mentioned, I mean, the absurd policies being offered by Republicans, arming teachers, focusing on people's pronouns. I think in Tennessee today, they're voting on a bill that would arm teachers. And it's just like, I'm wondering, I mean, what do you make of their focus on these things? Why aren't they trying to actually get things done? And why are they focusing on these such truly absurd things like arming teachers and attacking transgender kids for their gender identity in these shootings?
If you are not a white Christian, cisgender, hetero male with power, they don't care about you. Like that's their demographic, right? So everyone else, women, people of color, people with disabilities, poor people, everyone else is secondary to them maintaining their power, because that power is representative of white power, right? Like the white male Christian built America, wrote the Constitution, right? Started this country and has been in power ever since. So for them, it's become about that. And because of Donald Trump's success when he initially ran and then almost winning a second time, they think that's the way to go. We have to continue to double down on racist, sexist, xenophobic, not just rhetoric, but like political ideology. Like that's kind of how they're moving. And so they can't win with ideas. They don't inspire anyone. So they try to win with fear and control. And what we're seeing is, and as you know, and what we've been seeing for decades, and this is why I hold Democrats accountable for this as well, is an eroding of democratic values with big money entering politics and now controlling so much of politics, and eroding in democratic values, and a rise in anti-democratic and fascist behavior, which led to an insurrection on January
Right.
2021. So that's where they are. And that's why for us, man, like what you're doing, I want to give you a shout out for everything you're doing.
Oh,
Thank you so
thank you.
much for being plugged in, being engaged, being passionate, being educated, and always learning and connecting others. Thank you. It's needed. We need that all over the country. And I
Yeah.
think we're in the moment where it's happening and we're going to become who we need to become.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. And as you're saying that, I mean, I can't help but wonder. I mean, as a member of Congress working with people all across the aisle, how do you even engage with these people anymore? I mean, I can't imagine how hard it is for you to talk with a Republican who doesn't even acknowledge basic facts, and they openly embrace and fetishize gun violence. I mean, you have members of Congress who wear AR-15 pins on the House floor and committees. How do you engage with these Republicans and find any common ground in this day and age?
I look for opportunities. I
Yeah.
look for, let's say, freshman Republican members who may
Mhm.
have not been, or who may not be fully bought into, how Congress has been operating over the last couple of
Yeah.
years. I look to them. I try to talk about issues like education. Some Republicans we have common ground with some Republicans when it comes to education,
Yeah.
particularly around career and technical education.
Mhm.
So, I've tried to bridge some of those gaps there. I'm also on the Science, Space, and Tech Committee, and everything we do there pretty much is bipartisan.
Yeah.
They even though many Republicans are climate deniers, we all know the importance of investing in research and development when it comes to the issue of climate and environment and climate change. So that's what that committee does. So there's some opportunities there for bipartisanship. But the problem is the members of the Republican Party who are the most loud and the most obnoxious
Yeah.
and the most disconnected from how Congress is supposed to work and aligned with Donald Trump. Those are the ones who get all the attention.
Right.
Like
Right.
Jim Jordan being in New York today, holding a judiciary hearing targeting
Mhm.
Alvin Bragg and New York crime. Like those are the people that get mostly attention because those people are masters of the theatrical,
Yeah.
right? So, but there are some that we try to work with, but we're still not at a place yet to work with them because they're under the umbrella of McCarthy's leadership.
Right. I mean, Jim Jordan is in your home state, and I was going to ask you about that. We saw you call out Marjorie Taylor Greene when she was in New York City. Jim Jordan's from Ohio. With the fact that he's in New York City, trying to call out your city's crime rate is laughable, considering the fact that most red states, just like you mentioned before, have even higher crime rates. And so, I mean, you're from New York City. What do you have to say to these Republicans who are in your home state today, trying to just further push these wild conspiracy theories?
Yeah, just go home and do your job.
Yeah.
Go to your district and do your job. And part of your job is ensuring the general welfare of the people in your district, which is
Yeah.
written as part of the preamble of the Constitution. So go home and do your job. Go to Washington and do something about gun violence and do something to
Yeah.
move the country forward. Unfortunately, this is not what they do. Again, it's about power and control.
Yeah.
And that's what they're all about. And them coming here, they're shilling for Donald Trump. Donald Trump was indicted in New York. Marjorie Taylor Greene was here to support him that day. And now you have Jim Jordan and other Republicans. Why? Because as Trump wins, if he runs and he wins, they'll get a cabinet position, right? And he, from the executive, will double and triple down on this power and control political ideology. And again, this is why, like, we need every American deeply engaged in our democracy right now. I know that many people, you go to work, you go to school, you take care of your kids, you watch your favorite shows, you try to relax. Please add in or plug into our democracy in some way and get involved because we need everyone to win this battle.
Absolutely. And I think that is the perfect way to end this with an empowering note, and that everyone has a role in this. Representative Jamaal Bowman, thank you so much for everything that you do. And thank you so much for always showing us how it's done and calling out these Republicans. Your voice is so important.
Appreciate you, man. Peace and love. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks so much. Have a good one. Well, Representative Jamaal Bowman is so amazing. I mean, he's someone who I think it's one of those members of Congress that really believes in the work that he's doing. He's so effective in communication. He is unafraid to call out these Republicans when they need to be called out, and he gets in good and necessary trouble. And we need more of that energy in Congress. So just like he said, we need to be electing people like him up and down the ballot on the congressional level, on the state and local levels, and on those school board levels. I mean, that's where these elections are going to matter. And Republicans have spent years trying to manipulate and hijack those levels of elections. And we need, as Democrats, to be running people in all of those positions and electing those people in those offices. But Representative Jamaal Bowman is quite amazing. I urge you to follow him on Twitter or wherever you get your information. He is an essential voice in this fight. A couple of things I want to get to before I end today. The first is some breaking news regarding the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit case. Right before we went live, a federal judge rejected Donald Trump's attempt to delay the E. Jean Carroll trial. And he said that it's basically been more than 3 years since E. Jean Carroll brought the lawsuit, and that she is, quote, entitled to her day in court, unquote. This judge also noted and didn't hold back in his ridicule against I guess Donald Trump, that this judge says that there's no justification at all for this adjournment, and that he claims that it's just pure speculation what Trump is offering. And so this judge, I don't think, is messing around with what's happening right here, and we all should stand behind E. Jean Carroll right now. This is some good news, and this trial is supposed to start April 25th. So pay attention to that, because it'll be a very, I know, exciting case for democracy and for accountability. So there's some news on that. President Biden this morning also called on Congress to ban assault weapons and pass safe storage laws and universal background checks. This is, again, after the 2 shootings over the weekend, one in Louisville, the other in Alabama. And it's just so sickening that we have to find ourselves in this moment right now. But for all of those Republicans who might be listening, do something about this. Young people are watching. This is something that happens and affects Gen Zers more than any other generation. We have to grow up with mass shootings and mass shooter drills, and we are sick and tired of this. And come 2024, that's going to be one of the key issues that we vote on. It's going to be, along with abortion, climate change, student loan forgiveness, it's also going to be gun reform. And we're paying attention. More people are pissed off and outraged than ever before. And one other thing regarding the Fox News Dominion lawsuit. Yesterday, there was an interesting development, which is that the judge delayed the trial to Tuesday. And there was some speculation that maybe that means that Fox News will settle with Dominion, or Dominion will settle with Fox News. But it seems like, at least according to latest reporting, that Dominion will not be settling their case with Fox, which is good, because remember, for all of us paying attention to this court case and this lawsuit, this is more than just about this lawsuit. This is about democracy. This is about people knowing what happened with Fox News, the extent to which they pushed and peddled conspiracy theories and lies to their audience. They have to be held accountable, and the court, I think, is the best way to do so. I know there's a large debate about whether or not there'll be maybe cameras or videotapes from the courtroom, but we'll all be paying attention to that, because I think it's important for all of us to see what happens with this process. And it's an important process for not only the lawsuit, but also for the entire country to see what a news organization did for a candidate to stay in power. And no news organization should continue operating under those circumstances and should be penalized to the highest degree possible. So we'll be paying attention to that. This week, we have some exciting episodes for you in store. Tomorrow, we'll be joined by Ben Meislis, who is a part of Midas Touch. He'll join me to talk about the latest news, as well as his organization Midas Touch and some of the work that they're doing to call out Republicans. On Wednesday, and this has not yet been publicized, but you're not going to want to miss this, because she is, I think, a rising star in the Democratic Party in Florida. She's a state representative, Anna Eskamani. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but Anna Eskamani is going to be joining me on Wednesday to talk about the latest abortion ruling and abortion bill in Florida, and just what Ron DeSantis is doing to her state. On Thursday, it'll be an Ask Me Anything series, so you don't want to miss that. Submit your questions for me. I'll be answering them, as many as I can. And then on Friday, we'll be having on another hashtag Sisters-in-Law person, MSNBC legal political analyst, Kimberly Atkins-Storr, who will talk about the legal issues of the week. I know we'll probably be talking about Fox as well as some other legal issues, so don't miss that one. We'll be live every day at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here on youtube.com youtube.com/Politicon. You're not going to want to miss it. We have some exciting news, and I know this week will be a very, very busy news week, so don't miss it. I'll be here. Once again, I thank all of you for the work that you're doing, and like Jamaal Bowman said, tell everyone to get involved, do something in this democracy. We're all in this together. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.